What's good to the tribe? It's your fake. No tribe, fake tribe. No genealogy having bougie ass envy. Let me stop playing. Shout out to the Saponies. But let's get back into it. It's Wanaghi. Wanted to stop by and drop a clip off to you guys. But before we start, stop, hit the like button, and I appreciate you guys. I hope everybody's feeling safe, secure, and as healthy as can be. So this clip today is coming from Trevor Noah. He's a South African comedian. He's pretty funny, but he definitely understands what's going on, especially from traveling the world. I don't think people really understand what's happening out here until you really travel outside of the United States and get to actually see other parts of the world. Then you can give an accurate view of people and how they react and interact with you. But in this clip, the interviewer is basically asking him, why is he saying that African Americans are not African? And he's basically trying to give it to her in a nice way. Basically saying all black people, which we already know about black, are not the same. Which we've been saying this forever. Granted, we're from a black race, but we're different breeds out here. We're different people. It would be kind of boring and bland if we were all the same people. And it would be kind of weird too. We're all the same people. But this clip is definitely a good one, especially the way he explains it to her. Let's get it.
Okay, let's look at another aspect of race. You moved just a few years ago to the United States. Your routine as a comedian often mimicked Africans and also African Americans. And about African Americans, you have said this: you are not African, but we play along. It's a very loose term, African American, because half the time you use it for people who aren't even African.
Americans, and about African Americans, you have said this: you are not African, but we play along. It's a very loose term, African American, because half the time you use it for people who aren't even African.
Africans and also African Americans. And about African Americans, you have said this: you are not African, but we play along. It's a very loose term, African American, because half the time you use it for people who aren't even African. As long as you're black, they say African American.
I didn't deliver it like that. You're not doing my jokes justice.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'm not Trevor Noah and I'm not a comedian.
No, but you see,
satirist. But I'm just asking, are they not African American?
Here's what you're missing. What you're doing right now is the equivalent of me saying, now it's raining more than ever. I'll be here with you forever. You can always be my friend, standing under my umbrella. Ella, 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 A, Ella, 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 A. I seem like a mad person right now because I'm not doing everything that was within the context of the song Umbrella by Rihanna. When you were doing comedy merely by words, I spoke it. My eyes, my voice, my connection with an audience is completely different. People can see when you are being playful. People can see when you are saying something.
You're being playful about
that you don't believe. That is what satire is, though. You're poking holes.
So you're
so in that.
So you don't believe what you say.
No. What you're leaving out in that whole joke is what I was talking about was how in America, Anglo-Saxons had successfully removed Americanisms from minorities. So every single group in America had an identity attached to the Americanness except white Americans. So it's African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Latin American, Native American.
You don't know, you have Irish Americans, white,
no, but that didn't become on a box, and this is a joke for Americans. Understand that. So as an American, they understand this.
All right,
on the boxes, There is no Irish American. There is only
fine,
whites.
but not looking
But there
at-
is African American and there is Asian American.
But you know,
and there, do you get what I'm
all
saying?
right,
So,
I do
so
get
that's
what you're
the
saying.
whole point
But
of
the
the
point
show.
I'm trying to make is that there was a shift amongst the Black American community to start calling themselves African American. They didn't want a
Yes.
definition by default, i.e., you were not white, so therefore you were black.
Yes.
They wanted to have a hyphenated identity that linked them with the continent of their ancestors. And therefore, when you say, oh, they're not really African, they're playing along, you cannot disconnect what you say from this debate that's really, captured the imagination of the African American, Black American
Yes.
community. And also, the point I want to make to you is when you say that, it now feeds into a debate that's current in the United States. For example, Kwame Kwei-Armah, the Black Britain theatre director in the United States, says he has conversations with African Americans now who are saying, we want to go back to being called Black American because we don't have anything in common with this recently arrived African Americans, be they Somalis, Nigerians, South Africans, such as you, they have different language and so on. So what you say feeds into that debate, and it sounds like you're saying there is a difference between African Americans and Black Americans.
There definitely is a difference.
American, because we don't have anything in common with this recently arrived African Americans, be they Somalis, Nigerians, South Africans, such as you, they have different language and so on. So what you say feeds into that debate, and it sounds like you're saying there is a difference between African Americans and Black Americans. There definitely is a difference.
Theatre director in the United States says he has conversations with African Americans now who are saying, we want to go back to being called Black American because we don't have anything in common with this recently arrived African Americans, be they Somalis, Nigerians, South Africans, such as you, they have different language and so on. So what you say feeds into that debate, and it sounds like you're saying there is a difference between African Americans and Black Americans.
There definitely is a difference, right? But these are differences that can be celebrated or used to separate people. Noting differences does not implicitly make it a bad thing. When you are noticing differences, you can note them for good reasons. It's the same reason we notice different colors or we notice different flowers. That can be a good thing. If you're using it to celebrate, you can use that same thing the same way apartheid did to separate people. When you talk about African Americans, the one conversation that I was talking about was I was traveling America and I was going to a lot of universities, and I came to realize in many universities in America, the conversation you're having right now, they had an African American student body. And very quickly they noticed a shift because they could not lump black people into a monolith.
Because they could not lump black people into a monolith.
Right now they had an African American student body. And very quickly they noticed a shift because they could not lump black people into a monolith. They could not lump, because there were people from the Caribbean who said, we're not African American. There were people from Africa who were like, these are not our views, we are Africans in America.
So
there
that's
is a difference.
interesting, yeah.
And so what people themselves did was they said, you can't just lump us into this group.
Fine.
So that was the clip. Like we say, all skin folks ain't kin folks. And it's so crazy now because you can see the difference. If you really look at people like we've been studying people, you can see the difference. We're not all the same, and that's okay. That's what makes America and other places so great. That's what makes it so great, because it was so many different nations and so many different people. Melanated. Tribes, nations, whatever, clans. We all weren't the same. All of us didn't come off that slave ship or those boats that came over here, dropping off recent Africans. But just remember, genealogy is the key. We can't be like these other people out here, Pan-Africans and other people, and we're pulling up one relative that's an African and saying you're an African. We got to be able to prove this on multiple lines. Or what we say doesn't matter when we say it to the Pan-Africans when they only have one line of an African. We have to be able to show multiple lines. Genealogy is the key. Survival is the key. And I hope people are getting that through their damn brains right now. And shout out to all the American Indians out there, or whatever you want to call yourself. The name really doesn't fucking matter at all. But I see a lot of people still trip off of the names or what people are calling themselves. But like we say, everybody sees the world through their own lenses. So people just have to get over it and deal with it. You dig? But I love you guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and definitely share. If you mess with me, definitely support the channel. Feathers up, tribe up, wise up, rise up.